Madison Chen stared at her phone screen, hands trembling as the notification glowed in the darkness of her Seattle apartment. 8,000 for reseller charged to your account. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Friday, and her world was about to shatter in ways she never imagined possible. Just 3 days earlier, she'd received that panicked call from her mother Patricia at 11:30 p.m. "Honey, I'm having chest pain and I'm scared I might need to go to the emergency room," Patricia had whispered, her voice shaking with what seemed like genuine fear. "But you know how expensive medical bills can be, and insurance doesn't cover everything. I don't want to burden the family with debt." Madison's heart had clenched. Her mother had always been her hero, the woman who worked 2 jobs to put her through college, who celebrated every promotion with homemade cake, who called her my brilliant daughter whenever Madison doubted herself. "What do you need, Mom?" Madison had asked immediately. "I hate to ask this, but could I borrow your credit card? Just for emergencies, in case the hospital needs payment up front. I promise I'll only use it if absolutely necessary." The vulnerability in Patricia's voice had made Madison's decision instant. Family came first. That's what she'd been taught since childhood. For 3 years since graduating with her engineering degree, Madison had lived like a monk. While her friends went on weekend trips to Vancouver, she stayed home and meal prepped. While they moved into trendy Capitol Hill apartments, she chose a cramped studio in Ballard to save on rent. Every dollar had a purpose, every expense was calculated. Her $45,000 emergency fund represented countless sacrifices: skipped dinners out, declined invitations, secondhand furniture, and a social life that existed mainly through video calls. All of it was worth it, she'd told herself, while transferring the $5,000 credit limit to her mother's name. "This is why I saved money, to protect the people I love when they need me most." But now, staring at the charges scrolling across her banking app, Madison felt something cold spreading through her chest. Maui Beach Resort, $2,247. Helicopter tours Hawaii, $200. Ocean House Fine Dining, $456. Maui Luxury Spa, $890. The timeline was damning. Every charge had appeared exactly the hours after she'd given her mother the emergency card. Madison's engineering mind began connecting dots with terrifying precision. Her mother's chest pain had coincided perfectly with Madison's quarterly bonus. The urgent medical consultation had somehow required airline tickets to Hawaii. The woman who claimed to be too sick for work had apparently felt well enough for helicopter tours and luxury spa treatments. The betrayal cut deeper than the money. Madison had grown up watching her mother sacrifice for the family, had modeled her own financial discipline after Patricia's supposed frugality. She'd internalized the message that good daughters put family needs above personal wants, that love meant financial support without question. The conditioning ran so deep that even now, watching her emergency fund drain into someone else's vacation, Madison's first instinct was to find excuses. Maybe her mother had to accompany a sick relative to Hawaii. Maybe the charges were some kind of mistake. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation that would make sense of the impossible timeline between medical emergency and luxury resort. But then Madison noticed something that made her blood run cold. Every charge was doubled: 2 spa treatments, 2 helicopter tours, 2 fine dining reservations. Her mother wasn't alone on this medical emergency. Someone else was enjoying Madison's 3 years of ramen dinners and skipped social events. The pattern became clearer as Madison dug deeper into her banking history. This wasn't the first time. Christmas 2022. Car broke down, need $200 for repairs. Easter 2023. Property tax emergency, $2,100 due immediately. Her birthday last year. Medical copay shortage, $650 needed urgently. Each crisis had followed the same script: emotional urgency, family obligation, immediate need, vague details. Madison had been so focused on being a good daughter that she'd missed the manipulation tactics. The way Patricia always called late at night when Madison's defenses were down. The health scares that appeared right after Madison's promotions. The guilt trips disguised as gratitude. "You're such a blessing, honey. I don't know what I'd do without you." She'd been trained from childhood to equate love with financial support, to believe that questioning family requests was selfish, to prioritize everyone else's comfort over her own financial security. The conditioning was so complete that even now, with evidence of fraud glowing on her phone screen, Madison felt guilty for feeling angry. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She wasn't her mother's daughter in this scenario. She was her mother's ATM. Every proud moment, every "I'm so grateful for you," every family gathering where Patricia bragged about Madison's success, it had all been investment in maintaining access to Madison's bank account. As Madison scrolled through more charges appearing in real time, she saw that they'd booked 5 more days at the resort. At this rate, they'd max out the $10,000 credit limit and expect her to simply absorb the debt. Her entire emergency fund would be gone, along with the security it represented. But the most devastating realization was yet to come. Madison opened Instagram, something she rarely did, and searched for her sister Emma's account. She'd been blocked from Emma's stories months ago, supposedly to keep family business private. Now she understood why. There was Emma, poolside at the Four Seasons Maui, cocktail in hand, designer sunglasses reflecting the Hawaiian sunset. The caption made Madison's chest tighten. "Living our best life. Mom deserved this vacation so much. A blessed no Easter family time, feeling grateful." Posted 18 hours ago, right around the time Patricia was supposedly having chest pains in Seattle. The comments were even worse. Family friends writing, "You girls deserve this, and Patricia works so hard." Even worse was Emma's response to one comment. "Madison is taking care of everything back home. Best sister ever." Madison screenshot everything before they could delete it. Her hands moved automatically, her engineering training kicking in. Document everything, build the evidence file. Understand the full scope before taking action. That's when she found the smoking gun. Buried in Emma's older posts was a Pinterest board titled Hawaii Dreams, created 6 months ago. Board after board of Four Seasons resort photos. Helicopter tour packages, luxury spa treatments. This hadn't been a spontaneous medical emergency. This had been a planned vacation funded by Madison's guilt and family conditioning. The final piece of evidence appeared in Emma's Venmo history, visible to friends. 6 months ago, Emma had paid Patricia $500 with the note. "Thanks for Hawaii planning. Can't wait for Madison to fund our dream trip." Madison stared at her phone until the screen went dark, her reflection ghost-like in the black mirror. Everything she'd believed about her family, about her role as the responsible daughter, about the sacrifices she'd made for their well-being. All of it had been built on lies. For the first time in her adult life, Madison Chen was done being the family ATM. The next morning, Madison woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. The hurt was still there, sharp and present, but underneath it was something new. strategic thinking. She wasn't going to react emotionally. She was going to respond tactically. Her first step was documentation. Madison created a secure folder on her cloud drive and began methodically building her evidence file. Screenshots of every Instagram post, every Venmo transaction, every banking charge. She documented the timeline between Patricia's medical emergency call and the first Hawaii charge. She saved Patricia's text messages, claiming to be at the doctor, sent from what she now knew was a luxury resort. The pattern of deception became impossible to ignore when laid out chronologically. Madison discovered that Emma had been posting and deleting stories for months, giving glimpses of vacation planning while claiming to be unemployed and struggling financially. Patricia had been researching Hawaii resorts while telling Madison she was too worried about medical bills to think about anything fun. But Madison's engineering background had taught her that evidence was only valuable if you knew how to use it. She needed allies, and she needed to understand the full legal implications of what her family had done. Her first call was to Jennifer Walsh, her bank manager. "Jennifer, I need to report fraudulent charges on my credit card," Madison said, keeping her voice steady. The card was given to someone claiming a medical emergency, but it's been used for unauthorized vacation expenses. Jennifer's response was immediate and professional. "Madison, I'm sorry this happened. Can you email me documentation of the fraudulent nature of these charges? We'll need to start a formal investigation." "How long does that process typically take?" Madison asked. "For this amount and with proper documentation, we can have the card suspended immediately and begin recovery proceedings within 48 hours. Do you have evidence that the stated emergency was fabricated?" Madison looked at her evidence folder, now containing over 40 screenshots and documents. "Yes, comprehensive evidence." "Then you have a very strong case. I'll email you the fraud affidavit forms." Madison's next call was to her therapist, Dr. Sarah Rodriguez. She'd been seeing Dr. Rodriguez monthly since starting her high-pressure job, mainly for stress management. Now she needed guidance for something far more complex. "Madison, what you're describing is a form of financial abuse," Dr. Rodriguez said after hearing the full story. "The emotional manipulation, the fabricated emergencies, the exploitation of family bonds for financial gain. These are textbook tactics used by financial predators, even when they're family members." "But I gave her permission to use the card," Madison said, the old guilt creeping back. "You gave permission under false pretenses. That's fraud, Madison. You were deceived about the nature of the emergency, the intended use of the funds, and the other people involved. Your consent was based on lies." Dr. Rodriguez helped Madison understand something crucial. Her guilt was a weapon that had been used against her. The family conditioning that made her feel responsible for everyone else's financial well-being wasn't love. It was programming designed to maintain access to her resources. Your boundaries aren't cruel, Madison. They're survival. Armed with professional validation, Madison began reaching out to extended family members. Her first call was to Aunt Linda, Patricia's older sister, who had been notably distant from family gatherings for the past few years. "Madison, honey, I'm so glad you called," Linda said, her voice warm but sad. "I was wondering when Patricia would try this with you." "Try what?" Madison asked, though she already suspected the answer. "The emergency money scheme. She did the same thing to me about 8 years ago." claimed she needed money for Emma's medical bills. Then I saw photos of them at Disneyland. When I confronted her about it, she turned the whole family against me, said I was being cruel and unsupportive. Linda's story confirmed Madison's worst fears. This wasn't desperation or a one-time mistake. This was Patricia's established method of funding her lifestyle. Linda provided Madison with the names and contact information for other family members who had been targeted over the years. Cousin David, your Uncle Mike, even your grandma. Patricia has borrowed money from everyone with some sob story or another. The Hawaii trip is just her biggest score yet. Linda also gave Madison something invaluable: perspective on the family dynamics. Patricia has trained everyone to see you as the family success story, the one who should carry the financial burden for everyone else. But honey, being successful doesn't make you responsible for funding other people's poor choices. Madison's evidence file grew larger as she contacted each family member Linda mentioned. The pattern was identical every time: emotional emergency, urgent need, family obligation, followed by luxury purchases or lifestyle upgrades that the borrowed money had actually funded. But Madison also discovered something unexpected. She wasn't alone. Every family member Patricia had targeted felt the same guilt, the same confusion, the same question of whether they were being unreasonable. Patricia's manipulation tactics were so consistent that multiple family members had similar stories of being made to feel selfish for wanting their money back. David told Madison about the $8,000 he'd loaned Patricia for Madison's education that actually funded Emma's apartment deposit. Mike revealed the $3,500 medical emergency that became Patricia's gambling fund. Grandma Chen quietly admitted that her loaned grocery money had been used for Patricia's cosmetic dental work. The scope of the financial abuse was staggering. Over 10 years, Patricia had extracted over $30,000 from family members through fabricated emergencies and emotional manipulation. Madison's Hawaii-funded vacation was just the latest and most expensive installment in a decade-long pattern. As Madison compiled evidence from family members, she also began building her professional support network. Her coworker David remembered overhearing Patricia's chest pain phone call to Madison. "I remember thinking it was weird that she was calling you so late about medical stuff," he told Madison, "especially since she sounded more excited than scared." David's testimony was crucial because it established that Patricia's deception had been witnessed by neutral parties. Madison was building a case that could stand up to family pressure and potential legal challenges. The final piece of her intelligence gathering came from social media forensics. Madison discovered that Emma had been documenting their Hawaii planning for months, but had carefully hidden it from Madison's view. Screenshots of resort research, spa package comparisons, and activity bookings all predated Patricia's medical emergency by weeks or months. Most damaging was a group text thread between Patricia, Emma, and several family members discussing Operation Madison Vacation Fund. The messages, forwarded by a cousin who felt guilty about staying silent, revealed the entire conspiracy. Patricia had coached Emma on social media privacy settings, planned the medical emergency story, and even rehearsed emotional talking points for maximum guilt impact. By Friday evening, exactly 1 week after Patricia's emergency call, Madison had built an airtight case documenting systematic financial fraud spanning multiple years and victims. She had professional support from her bank, therapist, and legal advisor. She had family allies who validated her experience and provided historical context. Most importantly, she had evidence that this wasn't about helping family in need. This was about funding Patricia and Emma's lifestyle through emotional manipulation and financial fraud. Madison sat in her apartment that evening looking out at the Seattle skyline, feeling something she hadn't experienced in years: power. Not the power to hurt others, but the power to protect herself, the power to say no, the power to demand honesty in her relationships, the power to break a cycle of financial abuse that had trapped her family for a decade. They had made one critical mistake in their planning. They had assumed that Madison would simply absorb the debt and stay silent like every other family member had done before. They had counted on her guilt, her conditioning, her fear of family conflict to keep her compliant. They had forgotten that Madison was an engineer. She solved problems systematically, built comprehensive solutions, and wasn't afraid to implement them when the data supported action. Tomorrow was Saturday morning in Hawaii. Patricia and Emma would be at breakfast, planning their helicopter tour, confident that Madison was covering their expenses back in Seattle. They had no idea that Madison had spent the entire week building a case against them, gathering allies, and preparing to cut off their financial oxygen supply at exactly the moment of maximum impact. Madison looked at her phone, finger hovering over the bank's fraud hotline number. At exactly 8 a.m. Hawaii time, when they would be sitting down to their luxury breakfast, planning another day of activities funded by her 3 years of sacrifices, she was going to press that number and cancel their credit card permanently. The girl who had been raised to put family needs above her own survival was about to become the woman who protected her resources with strategic precision. And she was going to make sure they learned exactly what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness, generosity for stupidity, and family love for unlimited access to someone else's bank account. The helicopter tour they had planned for 9 a.m. was going to be the most expensive lesson of their lives. Madison set her alarm for 7:30 a.m. Saturday morning, 11:30 a.m. Hawaiian time. She had calculated the timing precisely. Patricia and Emma would be finishing their luxury breakfast at the Four Seasons, probably reviewing their itinerary for the day. The helicopter tour was scheduled for 9 a.m. Hawaii time, which meant they'd be heading to the lobby around 8:45 to meet their ride. She wanted them to feel secure, confident, completely unaware of what was coming. The psychological impact would be maximum when they were surrounded by other tourists, when they had already mentally committed to the day's expensive activities, when they felt most entitled to continue spending Madison's money. At exactly 8 a.m. Hawaii time, Madison sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open, phone charged, and a cup of coffee growing cold beside her evidence folder. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind dozens of times over the past week. Every word she would say to the bank, every document she would reference, every step of the process had been planned with engineering precision. She dialed the fraud department hotline. Bank of America Fraud Department. This is Michael speaking. How can I help you? Hi, Michael. This is Madison Chen. I need to report fraudulent charges on my credit card ending in 4567. The card was given to family members under false pretenses for a fabricated medical emergency, but they have used it for unauthorized vacation expenses. I'm sorry to hear that, Miss Chen. Can you provide me with the details of the fraudulent charges? Madison read through the list methodically. Resort bookings, helicopter tours, luxury dining, spa treatments. As she spoke, she could picture Patricia and Emma in their hotel room, probably laughing about how easy it had been to manipulate their way into a Hawaiian vacation. Ms. Chen, these charges total over $8,000. Do you have documentation that these charges were unauthorized? Yes, comprehensive documentation. I can email it immediately. The card was requested for a medical emergency, but social media evidence shows it was used for a planned vacation. I have screenshots of the planning process dating back 6 months, text messages proving the medical emergency was fabricated, and witness testimony confirming the deception. Based on what you're telling me, this appears to be clear fraud. I'm going to cancel this card immediately and flag all charges for investigation. You should receive confirmation within the hour. At 8:15 a.m. Hawaii time, Madison opened her email and began typing to the Four Seasons Maui general manager. She had researched the hotel's management structure carefully, finding the direct contact information for decision-makers rather than customer service representatives. Dear Mr. Johnson, I am writing to inform you about fraudulent charges on my credit card, ending in 4567, for guests Patricia Chen and Emma Chen, currently in room 12 out of 47. These individuals obtained my credit card under false pretenses, claiming a medical emergency while actually using it for unauthorized vacation expenses. Effective immediately, this card has been canceled, and all charges are under fraud investigation with Bank of America. Outstanding charges should be directed to Patricia Chen, 1847, Pine Street, Seattle, WA9 8101. I have attached comprehensive documentation of the fraudulent nature of these charges, including social media evidence of pre-planned vacation activities and fabricated emergency claims. Thank you for your professional handling of this matter. Sincerely, Madison Chen. She attached her evidence folder, 43 screenshots, text message chains, Pinterest boards, and Venmo transactions that painted a picture of systematic deception spanning months of planning. At 8:30 a.m. Hawaii time, Madison called Aunt Linda. Linda, it's Madison. I wanted to let you know I just canceled the credit card. The hotel should be contacting them about outstanding charges within the hour. Oh, honey, are you sure you're ready for the fallout? Patricia is going to lose her mind. I'm sure. I've built a support network, documented everything, and I'm prepared for whatever comes next. But Linda, I wanted to ask you to be ready. She's going to call every family member and try to turn them against me. Madison, after what she did to me, I'm ready to tell anyone who asks exactly what kind of person Patricia really is. You're doing the right thing. At 8:47 a.m. Hawaii time, exactly 17 minutes before their helicopter tour was scheduled to depart, Patricia and Emma were standing at the Four Seasons concierge desk, trying to pay for their transportation to the helipad. Madison imagined the scene playing out. The confident swipe of the card, the awkward pause as the system processed, the polite confusion from the hotel staff, the growing panic as multiple attempts failed. There seems to be an issue with your payment method, the concierge would say. Patricia, still confident. That's impossible, just run it again. Second attempt. I'm sorry, but this card is being declined. Do you have another form of payment? Emma, starting to panic. Mom, what's happening? We're going to miss the helicopter. Patricia, realization dawning. Madison, she wouldn't dare. But Madison had dared, and she was just getting started. At exactly 9 a.m. Hawaii time, Madison's phone started ringing. Patricia's number flashed on the screen 6 times in rapid succession. Each call went to voicemail. Madison listened to the progression of panic in her mother's voice messages. Message 1. Madison, honey, there's something wrong with your card. Can you call the bank and fix it? We're just trying to enjoy our last few days here. Message 2. Madison, this is urgent. The hotel says the card is canceled. There must be some mistake. Call me back right now. Message 3. Madison Chen, you call me back this instant. I don't know what game you're playing, but this is humiliating. People are staring at us. Message 4. How dare you embarrass your family like this? We're stranded here. What kind of daughter does this to her own mother? Madison saved each voicemail as additional evidence of Patricia's sense of entitlement to Madison's money, even after being caught in fraud. The text messages from Emma started at 9:15 a.m. Hawaii time. Madison, WTF is wrong with the card? We can't pay for anything. Mom is crying in the hotel lobby. This is so embarrassing. Everyone is staring at us. Why are you doing this to family? You're destroying our vacation over money? We were going to pay you back. This is the most selfish thing you've ever done. Madison screenshot each message, noting how quickly Emma shifted from panic to guilt-tripping to outright lies about paying Madison back. There had never been any discussion of repayment because they had never intended to pay her back. At noon Hawaii time, Madison sent her carefully crafted response, a single text message that would make her position crystal clear. Hi, Mom and Emma. The emergency credit card was specifically for medical emergencies only. Since you're both healthy enough for helicopter tours and luxury dining, I've canceled it as fraudulent use. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. The smiley face emoji was deliberate. It conveyed that Madison wasn't angry or emotional. She was simply implementing logical consequences for their actions. The reaction was immediate and predictable. Within minutes, Madison's phone exploded with calls from extended family members. Uncle Bob, cousin Sarah, even distant relatives she hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly had urgent opinions about her cruel treatment of Patricia and Emma. Uncle Bob was first. Madison, what's wrong with you? Your mother is stranded in Hawaii, crying in a hotel lobby. Family helps family. You're being selfish and vindictive. Madison used her prepared response. Hi, Uncle Bob. Thanks for your concern. This involves credit card fraud for unauthorized vacation expenses after a fabricated medical emergency. I've followed proper legal procedures with my bank. I'd be happy to share the documentation if you're interested in the facts. Uncle Bob hung up without asking for the documentation. Cousin Sarah texted, Really disappointed in you right now. Emma and Aunt Patricia have always been there for you. This is not how family treats each other. Madison replied with screenshots of Emma's Hawaii Dreams Pinterest board created 6 months before the emergency, and Patricia's Venmo payment to Emma for Hawaii planning. Sarah read the messages but never responded. But not all the family pressure went Patricia's way. By evening, Madison started receiving different kinds of calls. Family members who had been quietly victims of Patricia's financial schemes for years were finally speaking up. Cousin David called. Madison, I heard what happened. I want you to know I support you 100%. Patricia borrowed $8,000 from me for your education expenses 3 years ago. I just found out she used it for Emma's apartment deposit instead. Uncle Mike texted, Heard about Hawaii's situation. Patricia owes me $3,500 from a medical emergency that turned out to be gambling money. Don't let them guilt you into backing down. Even Grandma Chen, the family peacekeeper, called with surprising support. Madison, dear, I've been watching Patricia's behavior for years. What she did to you was wrong. Don't let anyone tell you that protecting yourself is cruel. The family dynamics were shifting in real time. Patricia's decades of financial manipulation were finally being exposed, and other victims were finding their voices. Sunday morning brought the hotel bill crisis. Patricia and Emma had to check out by 11:28 a.m., but their outstanding charges totaled $3,200. Patricia's personal account had $180. Emma's account was overdrawn. Madison could imagine them frantically calling relatives, begging for emergency loans, probably spinning new lies about why they needed money. She wondered how many family members would fall for the manipulation tactics. Now that the Hawaii fraud was exposed, by Sunday afternoon, Emma's social media strategy became desperate. She posted a GoFundMe titled, "Family Emergency in Hawaii. Please help us get home." The description claimed they were stranded by a family misunderstanding and needed funds for emergency travel expenses. The GoFundMe raised exactly $47 before family friends started commenting with questions about why they were in Hawaii during a family emergency. Emma deleted it within hours. Patricia tried a different approach, public shame. She posted on Facebook about being abandoned by her ungrateful daughter during a medical crisis. The post backfired spectacularly when Aunt Linda commented with a full breakdown of Patricia's financial manipulation history, complete with documentation. Other family members joined Linda's comment thread, sharing their own stories of Patricia's emergencies that turned out to be lifestyle funding. By evening, Patricia had deleted the post, but not before dozens of family friends had seen the evidence of her manipulation patterns. Monday morning brought the workplace intervention attempt. Madison was in a meeting when her HR manager, Janet, knocked on the conference room door. "Madison, could I speak with you privately for a moment? I received a concerning phone call." Madison excused herself from the meeting, her heart racing. She had prepared for this possibility, but hoped it wouldn't happen. In Janet's office, the conversation was brief and professional. "Someone claiming to be your mother called this morning. She said you were having a mental health crisis and had stranded your family in Hawaii. She suggested you needed immediate intervention and time off work." Madison pulled out her phone and showed Janet her evidence folder. "Janet, my family used my credit card fraudulently for vacation expenses. After claiming a medical emergency, I've filed appropriate reports with my bank and am handling this through proper legal channels. This call was likely retaliation for my refusal to fund their unauthorized vacation." Janet reviewed the evidence quickly and nodded. "Madison, thank you for clarifying. This looks like a clear case of someone trying to interfere with your employment as retaliation. I'll make a note in your file that any future calls from this person should be directed to our legal department." The workplace protection was now in place. Patricia's manipulation tactics were being systematically shut down. Tuesday brought the resolution Madison had been waiting for. Patricia and Emma finally returned to Seattle, having somehow scraped together money for their hotel bill and flights home. Madison didn't ask how. She didn't care. The true consequences were just beginning to unfold. Within weeks, The ripple effects of Madison's strategic response became visible throughout her family network. The Four Seasons had sent Patricia's outstanding bill to collections, which appeared on her credit report within 30 days. Her part-time bookkeeping clients began asking questions about financial integrity after word spread through their small business community. Emma faced employment consequences when background checks revealed the fraud investigation. Her social media evidence of lifestyle inconsistent with her unemployment claims made it difficult to find work in administrative or financial roles. But the most significant consequence was social. Other family members who had been Patricia's victims for years finally felt permission to speak openly about their experiences. The family dynamic that had protected Patricia's manipulation tactics for decades crumbled as victims compared stories and recognized patterns. Madison received messages from family members she barely knew, thanking her for exposing Patricia's behavior. Cousin Jennifer revealed Patricia had borrowed $2,000 for Emma's medical bills that funded a designer handbag shopping spree. A family friend admitted Patricia had requested money for Madison's emergency, while Madison was perfectly fine and unaware. The scope of Patricia's financial fraud was staggering. Over 15 victims, spanning 10 years, totaling over $45,000 in fabricated emergencies and lifestyle funding. But Madison's victory wasn't about the money or even the justice. It was about the silence that finally ended. The family conspiracy of enabling Patricia's financial abuse had dissolved when one person refused to remain silent. Dr. Rodriguez helped Madison process the complex emotions of the situation. You didn't just protect yourself, Madison. You broke a cycle of financial abuse that was harming your entire family network. That takes incredible courage. Madison realized the truth of that statement when Emma called 6 months later. Madison, I wanted to apologize. Being cut off from your money forced me to get therapy. I realized Mom trained me to see you as a resource instead of a sister. I'm working on changing that. Can we maybe start over someday with healthy boundaries? The phone call proved everything Madison had done was worth it. She hadn't just survived her family's financial abuse, she had created space for healing and growth. A year later, Madison's life looked completely different. Her emergency fund had grown to $65,000 without family financial drain. She had been promoted to senior engineer, bought her own condo, and started a side business coaching other financial abuse survivors. Her relationship with Emma was slowly rebuilding, based on mutual respect and clear boundaries. Patricia remained out of contact, but the family network had reorganized around healthier dynamics. Madison's story had become a blueprint for other family financial abuse victims. She spoke at financial literacy conferences, wrote blog posts that reached thousands of survivors, and consulted with banks on fraud protection policies. The woman who once prioritized everyone else's comfort over her own survival had become an advocate for financial boundaries and family accountability. She had transformed her worst betrayal into her greatest source of strength. Standing in her new condo, looking out at the Seattle skyline she now owned a piece of, Madison reflected on the journey from victim to strategist to advocate. The emergency fund that had once been drained by family manipulation now represented something bigger, proof that protecting yourself isn't cruel, setting boundaries isn't selfish, and demanding honesty in relationships isn't unreasonable. Her phone buzzed with a text from a woman she'd been coaching through a similar situation. "Madison, I just canceled my mom's access to my account. Thank you for showing me it was possible to love my family and protect myself at the same time." Madison smiled and typed back, "You're not responsible for funding other people's poor choices. You're worthy of respect, healthy boundaries, and authentic love. Your future is waiting, and it's more beautiful than you can imagine." The cycle of financial abuse that had trapped her family for decades was finally broken, and Madison had built something better in its place. A life based on mutual respect, healthy boundaries, and genuine relationships that didn't require payment to maintain. She had learned the most valuable lesson of all. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is refuse to enable their worst behaviors. Sometimes protection looks like boundaries. Sometimes justice looks like consequences. And sometimes the person who saves the family is the one who's willing to stop funding the dysfunction.